Let's get more perspective from one of the deal's chief critics within the president's own party. Joining us tonight, New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez. Senator, thanks for being here.
Good to be with you.
Your first impression of what you've seen, what you've heard about all that's in here.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm going to have to go through the whole agreement, and I look forward to Chairman Corker's commitment to very vigorous review of the agreement before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. But there's some takeaways that you can see at first glance. Number one is we're basically legitimizing Iran's nuclear program and saying there is a nuclear threshold state in Iran. Secondly, we're not ending Iran's nuclear infrastructure. In some elements of it, we're preserving it. I have real concerns about some of our red lines have been crossed. I don't read in this agreement anytime, anywhere inspections, for example, which are critical when you have a 20-year history of Iran deceiving the world and having covert facilities to enrich uranium. And finally, at first blush again, when you lift the arms embargo to a country that is the major sponsor of state terrorism in the world and is already destabilizing the region in Yemen and Lebanon and Syria and Iraq, to give them, after they're going to get $100 to $150 billion worth of economic relief, the opportunity to buy conventional weapons and improve their missile technology doesn't seem to me to be in the national interest of the United States. So we'll see how those questions are answered by the administration and by other experts.
Well, here is one of the questions. Secretary Kerry talking to our Rich Edson in Vienna about what else they could have done. Take a listen.
The program grew to the point where Iran accumulated enough fissile material for about 10 to 12 nuclear bombs. I will tell you, sanctioning Iran until it capitulates makes for a powerful talking point and a pretty good political speech, but it's not achievable outside a world of fantasy.
So basically, what else would you do? Is there?
Well, I think we never tested the proposition that dismantling elements of Iran's illicit nuclear infrastructure was possible. And it's pretty hard for me to believe that the world power sitting on one side of the table, the 5 permanent members of the Security Council plus Germany and the European Union, looking at the Iranians who are suffering under staggering sanctions that I help author and falling oil prices, couldn't get a deal that eliminated some of that infrastructure. So I don't know that that's a world of fantasy. And so I look at this and I say to myself, isn't it possible, with all the world on one side of the table and Iran reeling with economic challenges, that you couldn't have done better as it relates to eliminating that nuclear infrastructure? Because, Bret, at the end of the day, the challenge here is that 10 to 12 years from now, does Iran have a pathway towards a full industrial-sized nuclear program and the possibility of breaking out to a weapon? And if so, all you've done is delayed the question of Iran's nuclear ambitions, but you've delayed it in a time in which Iran will be stronger economically, more vibrant in the region. That's a challenge.
Well, when the administration and supporters of this deal say, hey, listen, it's either this or war,
I think that's a false choice. And that's been a false choice all along. You know, when I originally authored the sanctions on Iran with my colleague Mark Kirk of Illinois, I had members of the administration come before the committee and say, you'll break the international coalition if you pursue these sanctions. And ultimately, the sanctions passed 99-0 in the Senate and then in the House. And the administration now embraces that is those sanctions that brought Iran to the table. So the suggestion that the breaking of coalition is going to happen, you know, if we do this, and that the only option is war, is a false one. Look, Iran has a $1 trillion economy. We have a $17 trillion economy. If you're going to be barred from entering our market because you're engaging with Iran, which market are you going to decide to pursue?
So on this vote, do you think there are the votes to shoot this down?
Well, the vetting of the agreement is going to dictate that. And look, I think it's premature for some people to say they're definitely against it, and for others to say they're definitely for it. Let's have the vetting. But if the answers to the questions I've posed with you cannot be satisfactorily resolved, then I don't know how one gets to the view that this is in the national security interest of the United States, of our allies in the region, as well as our critical ally Israel.
A lot of people wrote in via Twitter. Andrew McKinley asked this to you, Senator. Why weren't the American hostages part of this Iran deal?
You know, if the Iranians can throw in the lifting of the arms embargo at the end, which I don't see as part of the agreement, then it would have been propitious to have raised the hostage question. Now, I've been told at various times that on the sidelines of these negotiations, the hostage issue has been raised, but I don't know how vigorously that was done and why we don't have any of them back at home in our possession.
Senator, thanks for the time.
Thank you.